Happy Wednesday. Today's hump day, right? Yeah. Didn't have a video yesterday. Apologize, but I went through a whole bunch of technical issues and I just ended up having to give up. So apologize for that, but hopefully today I won't have any problems and be able to talk about what I want to talk about, and y'all can get my forecast and hopefully you'll get something out of this. This is the water vapor loop. They come in the U.S. using the WeatherWise app here, and you have it overlaid with satellite or oh, radar. The satellite overlaid with the radar. Okay, so this gives a good idea where the moisture is, right? And then get this to draw on the screen, which it's not going to do. Let me exit out of here. Try it again. Let's see if this works, guys. All right. So, okay. All right. So, system moving onshore out west here, bringing heavy rain along the west coast. And we have a system up here that's moving through the flow, right? And these are going to be our weather makers for today. And it's really hard to make out too much as far as features here. So, what I'm going to do, I'm going to switch out of this and go to the a wider view satellite loop here that helps me out a little bit with this, right? So there's a better way to look at it. More like some overrunning moisture up this way here. I don't. It may be embedded shortwave coming through the flow, which is enhancing this right now. And there's a severe risk for severe winds today in this area, and for hail. Um, and winds and possible tornadoes along the west coast today. So in the south, you can see high pressure ridge aloft, mid level ridge. Excuse me, about to sneeze, guys. I'm sorry about that. Whew. All right. So overall zonal flow right now. Okay. And so those are our main players in the weather today. Um, And there's been a lot talked about on social media and stuff about the cold weather coming next week. Definitely supposed to be cold um, next week for a few days, especially in the south. Cold air pushing down this way. And also a chance of severe weather on Friday in this general area. We'll talk about that too today. And we'll quickly go over the tropics, which doesn't look like it has much of a chance of doing much anything, but we're going to talk about it briefly. They have a new outlook that comes out every Tuesday, so we'll talk about that as well. So let's get started here. Uh, so, what are the current national hazards? Current hazards along the west coast, we have a lot of wind advisories, warnings, watches, high wind watch, wind advisory, high wind warning, and up to the north, you have some winter weather advisories. Along the west coast, we have it's like a flood watch here. But that moisture streaming on shore there. Red flag warning up here in the interesting with the high winds here. Uh, red flag is more related to fire weather. You have the high wind warning up here into parts of New York. High wind watch all along in the Northeast and Mid Atlantic, which is kind of unusual. So, um, so that's probably what's driving the severe weather outlook for the high winds here today. uh, so current temps. Let's see if we have more recent. As of 3 a.m., overall 30s, 40s, and the 60s in the middle part of the country here overnight tonight, likely with cloud cover keeping the temperatures up. Warm in the desert southwest. Up to the north here, of course, it's a little colder. Cold air kind of bottled up here into Canada, right? With that delineation of the jet stream here between the cold air and the warmish air, I guess you would say, here in the rest of the country. Uh, departure from average. Departure from, sorry. There's a 24-hour temperature change since yesterday. A lot warmer here in the Midwest, Ohio Valley, right, than yesterday. Again, likely due to more cloud cover, keeping temperatures up. Cooler up here in the Northeast than yesterday morning, and up here into um, the northern high plains. So the extreme in temperatures are generally in this area, right, as you can see from yesterday, and centered in the upper Mississippi Valley, Ohio Valley, upper Midwest. Uh, so generally speaking, not overall extreme differences, but you can just tell where the biggest temperature differences were from yesterday on this map. So, 24-hour snowfall um, ending yesterday at 7 p.m. They had some snow up here in the mountains out west, and a little bit up into is it New Hampshire or Vermont? I can't remember which. Anyway, I had trouble with some of these states. A little bit of snow up there, but otherwise, 3, 4, 5 inches, maybe 6 inches in some of these areas. Favorite areas this time of year, higher elevations, of course. Cloud cover. Interestingly enough, the warmer temperatures aren't necessarily related to the cloud cover, which I'm wrong about, guys. So we switch back to the satellite loop. Maybe it's more because of the flow we're looking at here. Generally um, southwesterly flow at the mid levels, ushering in um, warmer air here. Interesting feature right here. Looks like some gravity waves moving into the flow here. Some kind of boundary pushing the south here through the flow. That's pretty cool looking over the mountains. So that's pretty neat. So maybe high clouds in general streaming here, but other than that, not. It's interesting that it's warmer. I have to reevaluate that, but the southerly flow is likely what's leading to that, right? So let's see. Cloud cover. All right, so precip. Um, this is where most of the precip fell, ending at 11 p.m. yesterday. Along the west coast, in the northern high plains and the upper Midwest, a little bit, in the northeast. Pretty much that's it for yesterday. 24 hours period there. So I'd like to show this so y'all know where most of the precip fell. Now we're going to go over the mid-level flow, and I wanted to use this comparison tool, and we'll go back to Um, sorry. Go back. I'm sorry, guys. Trying to get this to go backwards here. Yeah. So we can go back to the beginning of this. This is a model comparison tool. All right. And it allows us to just compare the different model runs. We'll go back to the 5th, which is generally today. Not generally, it is today, right? 9Z, 12Z. All right. So some will flow with the low off the coast here, bringing in moisture, right? And you have what looks like a little bit of a dip in the jet stream moving through the flow here, likely what's leading to the weather going on there today. That's the European AI, and they all kind of agree pretty much on what's going on right now, different models, right? So let's move it further out in time. This is centered with the European, right? So it's comparing the European model to everything else. So we get around Friday, and we have this looks like a short wave. This is 500 millibar temperatures anomaly. So the cold air aloft um, typically means more instability aloft and can lead to severe weather if other conditions are favorable, right? So you have this low up here with a 10-inch short wave and maybe like a cold front moving through. Maybe just generally in this area, it's not a very good drawing, but it's going to move through the flow. Severe weather, maybe in this area, um, Friday. Okay. So, yeah. So let's see if we can move this through some more. That moves through the flow. This lobe, let's just say, of colder air swings around. You have a short wave move through the flow there. That moves up to the north. Trough digs down, and this has gotten even more pronounced since yesterday. It's gotten even deeper, and you can see the high pressure we're building way up here, northwest flow coming way down, bringing cold air from the Arctic straight down in this area. So that's the driver of further weather at that point, right? And the models are pretty good agreement, although the GFS isn't nearly as deep, right? Where the European, honestly, is deeper than most of the rest of them. But overall, they agree on a trough swinging through the south. So, um, well, the east really, and dragging a cold front through, bringing the coldest air of the season for this part of the country. Okay, so if we move on, let's zoom out a little bit. Right, we can look at the temp anomalies here. You see that 500 millibar temp anomalies close to 40 C below normal. I don't know if that's right, but yeah, it's above the that's cold. Okay. So if that comes to pass, that is a really anomalously cold air aloft. And that just signals um how dynamic that system is going to be and where the source region for this area is coming from, right? Coming way up, I don't know, up this way, down here. But the saving grace with this is we're moving through time. It swings out pretty quickly. If you don't like cold air, that is, right? And the flow becomes pretty zonal after that, with high pressure building in and generally zonal flow with actually high pressure in general for the good portion of the country after that, right? We move on a little further. High pressure generally moves to the east. Look at that anomalously high pressure up here um, near the North Pole. Santa Claus is going to have to get out of the bathing suit. Just kidding. But and you can see further out in time that the European is indicating a bunch of different mid-level features move through the flow here. But that's pretty far out. So that's about as far as we want to go with that. So the big player in this, still short to midterm, is this feature here, right? So what the temperature is going to look like the next 7 days. This is more um, the temperature forecast. We're just going to go through here. Generally warming up, right, for a good portion of the nation. Cold air pulling up to the north there, right? You see the cold air, right? So, and through time, pushing further south. These are lows, right? You get to the 10th, and you get the 11th. These are highs, guys. Close to high pressure. High pressure. The south, highs in the 40s. Not getting above freezing in the Appalachian Mountains, but look out west here, how warm it's going to get on the backside of this. So, where you have a deep trough in the east, you got ridging out to the west of it. So it's a trade-off, you know. So, but it's very progressive, right? So, then colder the night after, but then you see what happens. It starts to warm up again for a good portion of the east here. Out west, it cools off again a little bit, but further out, overall, not any more big pushes of cold air. Okay, so I already went over the temps, so let's look at severe weather possibilities today. Um, we talked about the severe weather on the west coast with categorical risk here and along the mid-Atlantic and northeast today, right? With a tornado risk on the west coast here, which is interesting. All right, because usually I don't get that. Very not very dynamic system here. Hail as well. That's something too. And the winds, of course. Day two, just a general thunderstorm risk, a short wave move through the flow here. Likely some other features move through the flow, right? Then here's that severe weather threat I talked about with a slight risk. Categorical right now, 15%, right? Surrounded by marginal risk, not defining exactly what severe threat, but likely, more likely than not, it's going to be either a wind or hail threat, tornado risk. Um, Probably at this point, seems like it's going to be minimal, but we'll have to see how that plays out. It's, I think it's conditional right now, depending on if we get enough instability, cloud cover ahead of time, things like that. So we'll just have to see, right? It says a rainfall along the west coast, so marginal risk today. Again for tomorrow. Nothing for Friday. Nothing for Saturday. Nothing for Sunday. All right. As far as a longer range, I mean, we've talked about this. The temperature outlook um, along the in the Eastern U.S. The 10th through the 14th expected to be cooler than normal, but out west you see it's warming up. And then once that front goes through, likely drier than normal for a good portion of the country east of the Rockies. West of the Rockies, we got higher than normal chances of having high. I hate this probability map because it's very hard to explain. Like areas in white means you have equal chances of being above or normal precip chances. If you go up to the darker greens, it's above normal probabilities. The darker browns, the closer to almost certain it's going to be below normal probabilities. You're going to get below normal precip, right? So, and we talked about the temperatures warming up again. And you see what happens here after that push of cold air comes through. Center part of the country expected to be above normal, right? The 12th through the 18th. And of course, we've been so dry here in the southeast. I know we talk about the southeast more, but that's where I live, guys. So I'm going to talk about it more. But we've been so dry here. Uh, the pattern is just not supported a lot of moisture, and I would say that that's kind of typical of a La Nina year. When you have a El Nino year, we typically get um, more storms maybe moving through the southerly jet here and developing in the Gulf and giving us more rain, right? But geez, it's been dry. So the rest of the nation looks like it'll have above normal chances of get more than normal precip, right? In the darker greens, we just talked about what that means. So, all right. So moving on to the day 8 to 14 U.S. hazards outlook. So heavy snow is a possibility here in the Sierra Nevada, the 12th to the 14th. You can see the area November 12th, e- expected to be much below normal temperatures on the 12th, starting on the 11th, really. Risk is heavy precip, slight risk in these areas, the 12th to the 18th, the dotted greens. Okay. It doesn't say what kind of precip. Could be rain, could be snow, but that's what it says. Um, okay, so here's the snow probabilities. Moderate risk of heavy snow here in the Sierra Nevadas. We just talked about that. And these other areas here, slight risk of heavy snow. And that's towards the end of the period when, that moisture is going to be pushing back into the west coast again. And slight risk of high winds in these areas here. Again, dynamic systems moving on shore in the west, right? And temp probabilities. This is where you have your moderate risk of below normal temps in the dotted darker blue, and a slight risk for the rest of the country east of the Mississippi River. And I forgot to do the tropics here. Here it is. The last time I did an outlook, we had some areas highlighted here and here for the 2 3 weeks ahead. They've taken that away, and probability has gotten less likely that we'll have a tropical system develop there. But we're still in tropical season till the end of November, so we keep an eye on it. But right now, I'm not looking too likely. even though the GFS insists on something developing there, it's done that all year, and I'm not um, too worried about it right now. So, all right, guys, that's all I got for today. I appreciate you tuning in, and we'll see y'all tomorrow.